Okay, so I'm just going to talk to you a little bit about how service design and co-production fit together. This is from a design point of view, so obviously I'm from Design Wales, so I'm a big believer in the power of design, so that's where I'm coming from today. And Rosie is going to talk to you a little bit more about co-design and talk about some specific cases there as well. But I thought I'd just take you back to 1991. It's not a very good picture, but this was my greatest ever design achievement. I designed the school apron, and everyone at school voted for it, and I won. There's about 200 entries, and this is really exciting moment for me. Now when I'm stood up here telling you, I think maybe I should have done a bit more with my life. But, I think the thing that really came out of that, and the thing that I still think about when I think back to that, is that design adds value, it engages people, and makes you stand out. And I think that it's not just a nice way of presenting stuff. It really does get people involved in things. And when you're trying to create movements, you're trying to create projects where lots of different partners need to be involved. They need to get behind something, and design is a tool that you could use to do that. And why service design should be on your agenda? Well, you've all turned up for a meeting about co-production on a Thursday afternoon, and so obviously you're aware of kind of service delivery and different models for that. I'd like to take a step back really and just look at the design of those services, and that's why I think it should be on your agenda. As Ruth said, I used to work at a consultancy called Think Public. I used to specialise in public service innovation, and now work at Design Wales. Design Wales is an organisation that promotes design to business, promotes the use of effective design to business, and also promotes better design practice within the creative industries. At the moment, I'm running something called the Service Design Programme. It's a specialist programme for design agencies that want to enhance their skills and become service designers. And there's a couple in the room here today that have been on that programme. And also for manufacturers. So there's not going to be a lot of talk about sort of manufacturing here today, but most of my work is within that sector. I go to provide business support and advice around service innovation for the manufacturing sector. It's a very, very different area, but a lot of the kind of principles are the same really when it comes to service design. It's a set of methods, a set of tools, and they can be applied in different sectors. You may know this building. It's called PDR. It's at Cardiff Metropolitan University. There's a lot of expensive kit in there. We're renowned for making nice products, international award-winning products, and I think that's quite important because we do make things look nice, and people engage with them because they look nice, and they sell more because they look nice. They also test them. This is the only picture I could find of us testing it. It looks a little bit weird and slightly seedy. But I had to make do. When I say test them, we've got a user testing lab. And one of the things about service design, and one of the really interesting things I think about design is that it can take early ideas, put them into a testing situation, and then they're refined on a step-by-step basis, and you refine how it works, you refine how the product works, but also you refine how the service works before launching big pilot programs that are going to be costly, taking a bit of a punt on them, do small little interventions and test those. But I'm not a product designer. This is going to sound like a bit of a confession. I'm a service designer, and there's not a lot of us about, really, that go around calling ourselves service designers. There's a recent project run by the Design Council where there's a call put out for projects, and of the 10 shortlisted projects, knew every single person on that list. So there's not really a big kind of sector outside of the usual suspects. And if you're kind of into service design and sort of following that within the design sector, there's a very set sort of group. And what we're trying to do here in Wales is create a group of people that are linking up with organisations like Spice, for instance, people that are doing interesting stuff, around co-production, and say, look, design has a role to play in this debate, and here's some people locally that can link up with that. So I'm sort of coming from the angle of a professional designer. I don't think I've ever called myself that, but and Rose is going to come at it, no disrespect to her, from the perception of a non-professional designer. But thinking about co-design and that collaborative approach. So why am I here? This isn't some kind of philosophical thing. I'm literally here because Ruth invited me and I said yes. But co-production, from my point of view as a service designer, is a method of service delivery that can be designed into service that has value for both parties. So I see it as the bit that happens after you've designed it, where it's implemented, and whether you go with a co-produced model, whether it's like a cooperative. That's the kind of the menu of options that you have as a designer. And so that's why I think I'm interested in stuff like this. I saw this the other day. I don't know if anyone's aware of GiftGaff. I get £5 for everyone to sign up. So, and I've got some SIM cards in my wallet. So if anyone's interested, come and speak to me after. But the thing that really interested me was that we believe in a power community. Basically, they've removed all the big bureaucracy from the organisation. They've passed over a lot of responsibility for delivering the actual service element of the mobile phone operator, and people get rewarded for that, and that's quite interesting, I thought. And it sort of fits in the middle here between people that have got long-term contracts and people who are on pay-as-you-go. And I think that's quite interesting because you start to think about, well, actually, where's the value for the customer here? Where's the value for the user? And I think it translates a lot into business practices as well. And obviously we're here today to talk about the public sector, but I think it is worth having a look. There are some interesting examples out there, like GiftGaff, of how it's translated into a commercial offering. And then it has to be really well designed, because then it's got to engage customers, it's got to keep them interacting with it, and it's got to get them to pay for it. I think that's something that is really crucial, actually, that this co-production approach is because it generates more money for the business, but also more value for the customer, and that balance is really, really key here. Okay, so I think service design is effectively a user-centered design process that results in new or improves existing services. Kind of says exactly what it is on the tin. Like you say product design, or you're going to come out with a new product. It's the same with services. But I think the three key words to take away from that are it's creative, it's user-centered, and it's viable. And I think that design is often seen as creative, it's sometimes seen as user-centered, but often seen as something very nice that doesn't really work, or it's a bit the icing on the cake in many ways. It's not. It needs to be all three, and that's why I think it's particularly interesting for me. But service design isn't new. It's been around since the late 70s, early 80s, originally through sort of management literature, but has then been taken up by designers. I don't know, any of you that knows consultancy LiveWork, maybe of interest to you, celebrated their 10th birthday recently. They're the oldest service design agency in the world. I don't know if that's necessarily true, but that's kind of what they say. But it just goes to show that even the oldest isn't that old. And so designers have taken on the tools and methods that they use to make products, design interfaces and design communications, and applying them to services. And I think it's come about partly due to the convergence of technology and products. So in the past you've been working on new technologies, and perhaps you've been designing commercial products, but now there's this gap in the middle, a big bit in the middle, where they're all mixed up, and you're kind of, what's a product, what's a service, what's a piece of new technology? It's all kind of mixed up, and I think service design adds some clarity to that, really. How am I doing for time?
You need to speak a little bit fast.
Oh, okay, right. I'll probably skip through a few. Okay, I'll skip through a few of these, but we're not a service design consultancy, so sort of why do we exist? Well, we've got three kind of programs that we run around service design. The first of which is, as I said, working with people like Phil here, manufacturer, real kind of salt of the earth guy, trying to make products, but thinking about how you can generate more revenue from services, and thinking about how he could change his business model so he starts getting his customers to do a bit more work for him, how he starts to get them to buy into the value that they have and the knowledge they have, not just here's a cheap product that's competing with manufacturers abroad. SD4D is the service design program we run for design agencies, so we run a sort of tailored program and mentoring program around that. And they result in sort of small projects like this, which was with Age Cymru, Wales Millennium Centre and Fest, and I can talk to you more about exactly what happened in that project if you come and speak to me after. And then we're also working with international partners as well, so we're working with a design centre and regional government in Poland, in a city called Katowice. And they've come to Cardiff last week, and we took them through this thing called D-Service, a sort of service innovation methodology that they will then go back and implement across 3 public services over there. There's some pictures of that. And they're going to do that in the Labour Office, the Job Centre, a Cultural Centre, which is a bit like the WMC, and the Town Council, which is a bit like this building here. So what about co-production? Is that quick enough? You're out of breath now? Brilliant. What about co-production? Well, as a service designer, co-production is a useful model for delivering services that we design. And I kind of see it like this, that you've got service design on one side, and you use methods like co-design, co-creation, and you take a user-centered approach. And then you go on to the service delivery, which as a service designer, you don't really get hugely involved in. And that's where you have user-owned co-production and cooperative services. And I know that there's quite a few of you who are in that zone. So design should be in this argument because we're the bit before that, and we're the bit that can take a good idea and turn it into something that's going to really connect for the users. Whew, there we go. Okay, so there's my contact details, but I'll be here, obviously, if you want to hear more, or I can email you some specific case studies from the projects that I mentioned there. But as I said, I'm going to pass over to Rosie, and she's going to talk about co-design.
Thank you, Paul.